So, like as I said, 5 minutes, and we will begin this evening with the state representative for District 70, which is the western half of Greene County, and we're starting off with Eric Price. Eric, you have the floor.
I just want to take a second to thank Carolyn, Jeremy, Tom, and all the members of the Tea Party, of which I'm a member of, for putting this together. I know it's a lot of hard work, and I know we work together to try to get some of these people here. I'm going to do something a little different today because I can. I'm here to sell you Eric Price, tell you why. But politicians tend to like to do a lot of shameless self-promotion, so I'm not great with telling you a lot of the things I did. So I'm going to give you something that other people said about me. I'm going to pass out my performance ratings from 10 years of military service. So. Just kind of pass them back as we go. Now, these are a lot of different reports. Just kind of pass them back. They're not all the same thing. You'll notice I'll highlight a couple things on these. And I started with the most recent. The only thing I highlighted in these, I didn't highlight any of the smaller numbers, like the hundreds of thousands or thousands. I only really highlighted the billions of dollars that I was responsible for securing. So those are on almost every, like the very first 2016, 7.5 billion, 9.6 billion. So I ran the MWD teams that secured all of the 2016 elections. You'll notice nothing bad happened at those elections. Those were my teams. Well, I guess depending on how you look at it. My next one, 9.5 billion, 1.9 billion. And you look at my ratings, exceeds most, if not all, expectations. Some of the older ratings, direct security, directed fast missions, 1.8 billion, outstanding performer, elected top 3 president. That was something that I got elected in the actual deployed location, and we did a lot of good work there. Amazing leader, mentor, developed 200 members, just drove significant mission improvement, develops policy, directive, supplemental guidance, $42 billion. Led active shooter work groups, shaped team inputs, created programs, synthesized AFMC response capabilities, and that's something that's very near and dear to my heart. Obviously, I have experience for that. We know these active shooter incidents. Ohio is number 5 in incidences of active shooter. That is something I can help you at the state protect your children, your grandchildren, and even help law enforcement respond to them a lot better. Proven leader, manager at the unit and headquarters level. Oversees nuclear, physical, and installation security requirements. Develops policy again. So I was, you'll see, I was an action officer at the headquarters. I was handpicked because there were only a few people that had the opportunity to work in all the different nuclear environments. And when the Air Force basically screwed up, they needed someone to come back and fix everything from them. So I was one of the few people on a very short list, and on this one I ended up having to re-author Air Force Manual 31108, which was a nuclear weapons supplement. Team expert and vital asset and staff. Again, none of these are my words. 10.2 billion. Unrivaled dedication, delivers phenomenal results, epitomizes excellence and professionalism. Stellar NCO, strong leader, excellent manager. Performance consistently exceeds expectations. Again, everything is marked and clearly exceeds or truly among the best. had, part of my job was working with weapons. I helped rewrite the Air Force manual for combat arms, so we ended up training all 300,000 people in the Air Force. I think that's a pretty good resume. I think that's a good argument to hire me, and I think it's something you're not going to get from any candidate. So if you guys can help me get to where I'm trying to get, I worked for you for 25 years, and I want to work for you for at least 2 more. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eric. And now we're going to hear from Brian Lampton, the incumbent representative for Western Greene County.
All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for being here. I'd like to thank the Greene County Tea Party for holding this. I hope I made this type big enough so I could read this without my glasses. So I'm going to go for it. My name is Brian Lampton, seeking re-election, or election, I should say, for the 70th District. I do consider it an honor and a privilege to serve in the State House. I'm a Beaver Creek business owner. I've run and operated an insurance agency for over 32 years now. I've been and continue to be involved in our community. Past president of Fairborn, Beaver Creek Chambers, Beaver Creek Rotary. Also a member of the MVMAA, the Miami Valley Military Affairs Association, the NRA, Ohio Gun Collectors, Beaver Creek Women's League, and many other organizations. In the past 2 years, I've sponsored 10 pieces of legislation. 6 of them have been passed into law, including a Department of Defense priority. It's a red tape cutting measure that helps military families enroll their children in public schools as they move in and out of Ohio. Another bill gave county auditors the ability to provide tax relief to property owners after a tornado. It actually came out of that, the tornadoes that came through in 2019. Several other bills are supported by the business community, protections from insolvent insurance companies, among other things that we did. Another bill provided market stability and helped keep Ohio competitive and attract new businesses. I have been endorsed by the Ohio Chamber, NFIB, which is the National Federation of Independent Business, Ohio Right to Life, and the NRA, among others. I am a pro-life candidate. I did vote for the constitutional carry that passed earlier this year, and I will oppose any red flag bill that comes through the House. As a business owner, I believe we can do more to reduce and eliminate burdensome regulations, taxes, and fees. We currently face inflation, rising costs, and shortages of just about everything. We got to stop our reliance on overseas products and energy. I speak with business owners and individuals every day about important issues: inflation, taxes, school funding, and public safety. I'll remain focused on these issues, work to get government out of the way so that people can solve these issues in our communities. I ask for your support in November. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Now we're going to hear from the representative of state of District 71, which is Eastern Greene County, and we're going to be hearing from Dr. James Harvey Duffee.
Well, thank you for coming tonight, and thanks for the Tea Party for hosting this and getting this together. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you. You know, in Ohio, if we're voting this year, and particularly if you're running this year, you have to realize that democracy is on the ballot this year. The Republicans in the redistricting commission obstructed the writing and drawing of fair maps, and that's why I am in District 71. I actually live in southern Clark County, right on the border in southern Clark County. And 71 goes from the southern part of Springfield all the way down to the bottom part of Clinton County. So the Republicans obstructed what we voted for in 2018. We voted in a referendum, over 70% of us voted for fair maps to end gerrymandering. And the Republicans at the last minute decided that they wanted unfair maps, unconstitutional maps that allowed them to stay in power, that allowed them to maintain their supermajority so they could pass their extremist laws that don't represent the values or the will of the people. So we have to do two things here in this election. One is we need to elect a bunch of people that don't have R's behind their names. So we need to break the supermajority. And that means libertarian, it means independent, it means green, it means Democrat. I would prefer you vote Democrat, but if you don't, we need to vote people in that don't have R's behind their names so we break the supermajority. We need to get them back to a point where they're responsive to the people of Ohio. We need fair maps and we need free elections. Now, the Republicans would like us to believe that voter suppression, removing the ability to freely vote, is going to make the election more secure. Well, there's no evidence of that. There's no evidence from the Secretary of State that there was any problem with security of the previous election in Ohio. And there's no evidence that reducing the vote or suppressing the vote will actually make the election more secure. We need to have everybody vote, as you said. We need to have everybody vote. We need to make sure that everybody have free access, easy access to the franchise. Now, because I'm not from the old district that this part of the Greene County was a part of, so I don't know Bill Dean. I'm not going to criticize him personally, but he does have a voting record, and it's very different than mine. And since I'm wearing a children's button here, I'm going to place it in the terms of safety. Some of the things you'll agree with, and some maybe you don't. But Bill Dean, instead of keeping our children safe in elementary schools, he decided to arm kindergarten teachers with handguns. Now, can you imagine the possibility of a handgun coming against a young man who's very disturbed and has body armor and a machine gun of some sort? That's ridiculous. Instead of protecting our streets and protecting our law enforcement, he voted for unlicensed carry. Instead of protecting young women in school, he decided to vote for gender verification, which means mandatory internal genital examinations if somebody thinks that a young woman athlete looks a little bit more masculine than they should. That he thinks, or somebody like him thinks. Instead of protecting young men, he voted for standard ground, which we know is discriminatory and disproportionately affects young black men, fatally. Instead of protecting victims of intimate partner violence, he voted against Aisha's Law, which is named after a young woman who was stabbed to death by her ex-husband in Cuyahoga County in 2018. Instead of defending a woman's reproductive freedom, he voted for the heartbeat law, which, as we know, forced a 10-year-old rape victim to cross state lines for appropriate care. Instead of allowing small businesses to reopen safely during the pandemic, he voted to ban businesses and schools from requiring common sense public health measures such as masking. He's been a safe vote for the extremist agenda and has introduced almost no legislation that's beneficial to the district, except maybe changing a couple of street signs and naming street sectors. But I don't know. Time? Well, we have a lot of work to do. I was going to talk about school funding, and I will. But I want to just mention last that I'm a retired pediatrician. I've spent my whole life, my whole career, taking care of children and families and communities in the Miami Valley. Thank you for your support. Thank you for
Bill Dean is the incumbent, District 71, Eastern Greene County, and I got a call from him this afternoon. And I'm sorry to inform you that he's unable to come tonight because he is at a family gathering at the bedside of one of his children. It's a fatal disease, and our thoughts and prayers are with Bill and his family at this time. The next race is the governor and lieutenant governor's race, and the candidates are Nan Whaley and Cheryl Stevens. And I was informed that Gila Anderson is from Greene County and is representing Nan Whaley and Cheryl Stevens on, and welcome Gila on, and we would like to hear from you on behalf of them.
Thank you so much for allowing me to speak, not as a candidate, but as someone supporting Nan Whaley and Cheryl Stevens. As a woman and a small business owner, and I'll say parenthetically, my husband and I owned Yellow Springs Hardware in Yellow Springs for many years. We did just sell in November, but I still consider myself very much a part of the small business community. And of course, I remain a woman. And I have felt overwhelmingly unrepresented by Ohio government over the last many, many years. And so I'm so excited that Nan is stepping up to take the lead. I think she and her candidate for Lieutenant Governor, Cheryl Stevens, are the best people to lead our state and give us a real shot at what we deserve. Nan is from a working class family. Nan is a working class candidate. Her father was a union auto worker, union being key. And when he lost his job, her mom went to work in a laundromat to help make ends meet. And Nan retains that sensibility. She understands that with rising costs and stagnant wages, families are struggling, and she's proposed a whole host of measures to help, including a inflation rebate of $350 per person. She's proposing to cap the costs of medicines such as insulin, and she also strongly believes in outlawing price gouging, which our current governor is not addressing at all. Nan was the mayor of Dayton, as I'm sure you all know, for 8 years, and during that time she faced many crises. There was a mass shooting that left 9 dead. There was a KKK group that came to town, and there was the 2019 tornadoes that have been referenced earlier, and that affected me very personally. My son and daughter-in-law lost their home, their vehicles, and all their belongings in the Garden View district in Beaver Creek. And Nan was instrumental in making sure that people in her county, and by extension in Greene County, could recover from that devastation. When Nan took office, the Montgomery County the Dayton community led the nation in opioid overdose deaths. But under her leadership, she has cut those deaths in half, and now Montgomery County does not even rank in the top 10 counties in Ohio for overdose deaths, so that's very impressive. And it's not just during crises that Nan shines. She implemented high-quality preschool for every child in Dayton, which helped prepare more children to succeed in kindergarten and beyond. And she helped grow small businesses, particularly Black and women-owned. And she lowered the cost of child care so that parents could more easily be at work. She worked with members of the community, with the police force, with activists, with clergy, and built trust to come up with solutions to improve safety for everyone in the Dayton community. And under her leadership, the greater downtown Dayton area saw more than billion with a B dollars in new investment, and Nan can bring that energy and that success to our state. All voters want someone who is going to put Ohio first, not just party politics. And Nan has demonstrated over and over again that she will work with anyone to get things done. She won her Democratic primary for this race by 30 points, which is incredible. And those of you who are candidates probably know that more than I do. And won 80 out of Ohio's 88 counties. I just want to say the last thing is the price gouging issue is something Nan can deal with immediately, because that can be done by executive order, which we've all been hoping Governor DeWine would do, but hasn't happened so far. So I understand my time is up, and thank you so much for letting me speak on Nan's behalf.
Thank you, Gila. And now, speaking on behalf of the incumbent, Governor Mike DeWine, and Lieutenant Governor John Husted, we have Ethan Reynolds.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight. I know it's really important that we get everyone here. Civic engagement's one of our things that we lack in this country. I think it's good that we're getting folks here from both sides, left and right and center, to gather together to listen to the candidates and obviously their surrogate speak. I'm here representing Governor DeWine tonight. Unfortunately, he can't make it. We have a prior event and scheduling conflict, but I'm here tonight to share the story of Ohio and where we were and where we now are. So Governor DeWine has now had historic investment of $274 million into law enforcement in this past year alone. Governor DeWine has continued to while slashing taxes by $3.6 billion. Another one, historic 40-year low. Lowest taxes in 40 years here in Ohio, and yet we still have a balanced budget. We continue to spend money on infrastructure, on our cops, and our law enforcement and other agencies. Unemployment is now the lowest it's been in decades. We have more people in Ohio currently we have more jobs currently in Ohio than there are folks unemployed. 175,000-ish jobs in Ohio versus 75,000 unemployed. We have one of the lowest employment rates in the state's history. We continue to move forward to get more jobs here. We see Intel and that billion-dollar deal. We have Honda. We see jobs coming that are related to Intel. Ohio is growing, and it will continue to move forward with Governor DeWine's leadership. Ohio did see its credit upgraded to AAA. It's the first time in 43 years that we've had that. We're going to continue to grow, continue to move. Governor DeWine has continued to fight, whether it be with opioid addiction, to make sure we set up our own cabinet office, being Recovery Ohio. So we've moved that. Governor DeWine's been endorsed from all sorts of different civic groups, from unions to Chamber of Commerce's, to all sorts of issue-oriented groups. You know, we're continuing to campaign and work hard for Ohio. We're looking forward to the next 30 some odd days of this. Hopefully we get through all this together, you know, not left, not right, but forward together as a state. At the end of the day, we're all Ohioans, so we're looking forward to that. Thank you.
Thanks, Ethan. Okay, the next category is Attorney General, and the candidate is Jeffrey Crossman. And I contacted his campaign, and they said they were going to send me something to read, and I checked my phone again, and I still don't have anything. The incumbent is Attorney General Dave Yost, and speaking on behalf of Attorney General Yost is Jacob Sargent.
Hi everybody, my name is Jacob Sargent, and I actually live in Columbus, but I grew up in Centerville, so any excuse to get out this way is greatly appreciated. I'm here today to talk to you about our Attorney General, Dave Yost. And there is really one thing that can encompass his entire first 4 years: upholding the rule of law. Or as he likes to put it, the same rules for everybody. The only thing our society has is the rule of law. It's the only reason we have a government. I mean, it's expensive, it hardly works, and the only reason we really put up with it is so that we can live productive, accomplished, and prosperous lives. And those that would subvert these rules for everybody are essentially undermining our entire society. And he's upheld this rule of law in a number of ways. One of them is fighting the federal government when it oversteps its bounds and encroaches on states' rights. President Joe Biden recently issued a number of OSHA vaccine mandates that many Republicans, including the Attorney General, fought against and fought in the Supreme Court to dismantle and refuse. Mr. Biden also tried to argue that if a state didn't have certain, or if a state tried to cut taxes, they could not receive certain COVID relief money. That's not legal either. And Mr. Yost went to court, fought back against those mandates, and your legislature, including Representative Brian Lampton, was able to give you a $2 billion tax cut this year. And I think that's worth celebrating. There's a lot of problems with corruption in Ohio as well right now, including many scandals and many certain politicians overstepping their bounds as well. Mr. Yost was able to successfully secure billions of dollars back from the largest public corruption scandal in Ohio's history, orchestrated by Speaker Larry Householder. Dave Yost, regardless of who you are, Republican or Democrat, poor or rich, black or white, fights for the rule of law, fights for what's right, and fights for Ohio. And he will continue to do that. Thank you so much.
The next race is for state auditor. Taylor Sappington is a Democrat candidate, and the campaign said they were going to send me a paragraph, and it didn't come. Keith Faber, Auditor Faber, is the incumbent, and Anita Swan is going to read a paragraph a document that he sent us to read.
I didn't time this, so if you want to make sure it's on 5 minutes.
Would you want me to hold up the second?
Yeah. Keith Faber is a state representative for Ohio's 84th district. Previously, Keith served 10 years in the Ohio Senate and was elected by his colleagues to serve as the president of the Ohio Senate from 2013 to 2016. Throughout his career, Keith has been a leader in the effort to move Ohio forward by advocating for a more efficient, effective, and transparent government in Columbus. Keith has a long record of fighting the growth of government. He pushed legislation that cut Ohio's taxes by $5 billion and turned an $8 billion deficit into an $8 billion budget surplus. He championed the small business tax cut, which has been a boon to individuals across the state. And he drafted the Common Sense Initiative, which has dramatically reduced new regulatory filings. As Senate President, Keith was instrumental in reducing the cost of higher education throughout the Senate 5% challenge, resulting in an average decrease in the cost of a degree by 11.7% statewide. He also supported legislation to increase the frequency and scope of the auditor's power to conduct performance audits on state agencies. This practice began under Dave Yost and has already saved the state over $250 million. Keith will expand this power to find more savings for taxpayers and relief for business owners and their employees. Keith will work to bring private sector efficiency to government and ensure that best practices are used to reduce the cost of customer service, licensing fees, business fees, and agency priorities. Creating a more efficient government means having more effective government. And increasing efficiency in certain areas of government will allow the legislature to reallocate funds to areas that need funding, such as fighting the opioid epidemic or returning money to the taxpayers. The Auditor of State is not a partisan position, though it is a partisan election. All Ohioans, regardless of their political affiliation, deserve a government free of corruption and waste. It is the auditor's job to stop corruption and expose waste. Keith has proven his ability to lead as a state legislator, and with your support will continue the fight as your state auditor. Keith lives in Salina, Ohio, on the western border of the state, with his wife, Andrea, their 2 children, Adam and Brooke, with an E on the end. Keith is a small business owner operating his own law firm, Faber and Associates. And I'm here.
And it's Salina. Salina.
Salina?
Salina.
Thank you, thank you. I'm new to Ohio, so excuse me.
I'm a repeat. Salina, Ohio. She just got here from Florida, so you'll have to excuse me.
Yeah.
Mispronunciation. The next race is for Secretary of State, and the Democratic challenger is Chelsea Clark, and I was unable to contact Chelsea Clark. I left several messages and was unable to connect. The Republican incumbent is Secretary Frank LaRose, and Kenny Henning just came in. So Kenny Henning is representing Secretary LaRose.
Good evening, everyone. I've been here too. I just told Carolyn I did not just get here. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I'm Kenny Henning, as Carolyn stated, and I've worked with Secretary LaRose since he took office in 2019. So I'm going to tell you tonight a little bit about our record and the story I'm very proud of. The Secretary of State's office in the state of Ohio is unique because we oversee the county boards of elections, but then also run the business service division at the Secretary's office. I see a board member and a future board member here tonight, so thank you for your service. We appreciate it. The Secretary does have appointing authority for the Board of Election members, and in Ohio, the boards of elections are made up of 50% Republicans and 50% Democrats. It's something unique to our state, but it's those checks and balances that help ensure our elections are truly safe and secure. We're going to go on to say Frank is the Ohio Secretary of State currently. He's the 51st Secretary of State. He served 2 terms in the state Senate from the Akron area. Prior to that, he was a Green Beret in the U.S. Army. His wife, Lauren, and their 3 girls live now in the Columbus area in Upper Arlington. And we're going to talk, I'm going to bring up the business service side of the office. Even in a pandemic in the state of Ohio, Ohio saw record new business growth in 2020. In 2020, we had over 170 new businesses formed. In a pandemic, it showed that Ohio's entrepreneurial spirit was alive and well. And we broke that record in 2021 with over 197,000 new businesses formed. Now, our office works really closely with all the chambers of commerce and SBDC organizations around the state, and I have 16 counties that I represent for the Secretary. And one thing I'm always proud of is when new businesses come up to us and say, we filed and we got our certificate back within 24 hours, or just in a couple hours we got the information that we were good to go. So that's something that the Secretary has been passionate of with the business service side of the office, making sure it's efficient and quick. So our business owners then have the opportunity to go into business and make a living for themselves. On the election side, we're really proud of the security Ohio has in elections. Since taking office in 2019, we've issued 3 security directives. The board members here tonight can talk to you about those also, because it's compliance that they even have to follow. Not only do the boards of elections, it's all staff too. They have to be background checked. They have to do continuing credit hours. There's so much more than just being a board member. And all of the time that we spend on that has proven to be very successful as to why Ohio runs really safe elections. Something we're doing right now leading up to the election, since we're 36 days away, is LNA testing the machines. So it's the audit it's basically the audit of the machines before election day, and then after election day we have to do a post-election audit. If you didn't know that, we really kind of audit everything twice. Audit the machines, make sure everything's running and performing accurately, have election day, get the results, do the official certification, and then audit those results to make sure they're accurate. Greene County Board of Elections and my 15 other boards of elections, I've thoroughly enjoyed working with them these past 3.5 years, and they do tremendous work. The Deputy Director at Greene County's Board of Election has been in the business for 30 years or close to it, and the new director, she's also doing a tremendous job. So we're really appreciative of our Board of Elections partners. If you are not signed up to be a poll worker, we would encourage you to do that. voteohio.gov/defenddemocracy. Greene County Board of Elections needs poll workers. Montgomery County does. All my 16 counties can use some poll workers, so sign up. But at the end of the day, I just wanted to say, we are running for re-election, and I hope and pray we get another term. I hope that we can continue to ensure that Ohio runs safe and secure elections. We're going to continue to fight against the federal takeover of elections. We're going to continue to fight against the out-of-state donors that have an interest in Ohio elections, more so than what Ohioans do, kind of concerning. And the Secretary is going to continue to fight against lawsuits that happen leading up to Election Day that change the rules after ballots have already gone out. That's not what Ohioans want, and to ensure safe and secure elections, we have to play by the rules. So thank you so much for being here tonight.
The next race is for state treasurer. Scott Schertzer is the challenger, and I was unable to reach him through his office or identify a campaign source. The incumbent is Treasurer Robert Sprague, and he did send us a paragraph, and Anita is reading that.
And I don't see a name of a town, so I should be okay. Okay, I don't think this is going to be 5 minutes, but I'll time me anyway. This is from Robert Sprague's office. He said, "I apologize that I cannot be at the Meet the Candidates event tonight. I appreciate all the great work that grassroots organizations like the Greene County Tea Party put in each election cycle to elect good conservatives. I'm seeking a second term as Ohio's treasurer because we've seen many successes in the last 4 years, and I know there is so much more that can be done. In the treasurer's office, I have the opportunity each day to put my finance, local government, and legislative backgrounds to work for the people of Ohio. While I enjoyed my work in the private sector as a project lead at Ernst & Young and advising businesses as a consultant, I've always had a heart for public service. Whether it's balancing budgets and helping to lead flood recovery efforts in my hometown, Findlay, I know how to say that. Findlay, or working on the state budget and other, other financial issues as state representative, I understand the power of finance as a tool to solve some of our community's most pressing challenges. I've made it our staff's mission to be trusted stewards of the Ohioans' tax dollars, wise investors in our state's future, and bold innovators for the people of Ohio. Over the past 4 years, our team has modernized long-standing programs to make them more useful in today's world, while also fostering new and innovative initiatives that are making a real difference in the lives of Ohioans. I humbly ask for the opportunity to continue what we've started. And I'm under.
The next 3 races are for the justices of Ohio, for the Supreme Court justices. And the first position is for the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. And the challenger, it's an open seat, sorry. Justice Jennifer Brunner is currently on the Supreme Court, and I was speaking with her daughter is on the campaign, and she really wanted to get Justice Brunner, but it just couldn't happen. So she did send us a letter to read, and Kim McCarthy is either going to read it or she's going to tell me who is going to read it on Justice Brunner's behalf. Kim, take it away.
Thank you, Carolyn. I've only just gotten this today, like literally when I walked in, so excuse me if I read a lot. All right, well, thank you everyone for coming here. I'm pleased to present a statement from Justice Jennifer Brunner. Justice Brunner was elected Justice of the Ohio Supreme Court in November of 2020. Over the past 3 decades, she served as a judge for the 10th District Court of Appeals for 6 years and the Franklin County Common Pleas Court for 5 years, as well as running her own private law practice. As a trial court judge, Bruner founded the county's adult felony drug court program. It's now in its 17th year of operation. She was elected Ohio's first woman Secretary of State in 2006. And while in that office, she became the first Ohioan to receive the John F. Kennedy Profile and Courage Award from the bipartisan board of the JFK Library and Museum in Boston. As an attorney, Justice Bruner has 17 years of private law practice experience. In addition to her statewide public service record, Justice Bruner has also provided rule of law technical expertise to the government of the Republic of Serbia, election observation in the Arab Republic of Egypt, and the rule of law instruction at the Bar Association of Sri Lanka through the US State Department, as well as providing remote technical training through the American Bar Association to the Republic of Kazakhstan. So you're lucky you didn't have that one, right? She has gained a deep understanding of the importance of a strong and well-functioning judiciary to preserving peace and growing democracy through the rule of law. A native of Springfield, Ohio, Justice Bruner has been married to Rick Bruner since 1978. They have 3 adult children and 6 grandchildren, 3 dogs, 2 cats, and spend time at their home in Columbus and at their farm in, I didn't say this one before I got up here, Columbiana? Is that it? That's a county in Northeast Ohio. Justice Bruner regrets she's unable to be here this evening, and she's released the following statement. I'm running for Chief Justice of the Ohio Supreme Court because justice matters for every Ohioan. Steady and principled leadership of the state's highest court is essential to helping Ohioans realize justice in their everyday lives. The state's constitution is the voice of its people. The Ohio Supreme Court is the Constitution's caretaker, a guardian to ensure people and their rights are protected. As a current Justice of the Ohio Supreme Court, I participate in deciding which cases the court reviews and in helping set the course for the rule of law in our state. Not all cases are accepted by the state's highest court. This is because the Constitution requires us to determine the law for matters of great and general public interest. Ohio is a very diverse state with deep rural roots, storied urban communities, and countless small and middle-sized towns and cities. I take seriously my responsibility as one of 7 people elected to do justice for all of the people of Ohio. I am grateful for what I've learned from Ohioans in my many years of service to them, working at 3 levels of the state's courts and as Ohio's first female Secretary of State. Why Chief Justice? Administrative and policy leadership of the court is not about an ideology of who should win and who should lose. It is about a belief and understanding that courts are only as effective as people believe them to be. Good judges and fair courts can make all the difference in the confidence Ohioans have in their judiciary, and that confidence makes our courts more effective. I know that courts can do good things for people, protect their health, safety, and welfare with fairness, equality, and respect. And I'm committed to doing this every day now and as Chief Justice of the Ohio Supreme Court. I am further committed to using the power of the court to help lift the vision of all judges of the state to why we serve and the power we have to do good for all Ohioans. Thank you very much for your time and consideration, and she asks for your vote on November 8th. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. All 3 of the Republican justices had accepted an engagement in Cleveland earlier, so that's why they weren't able to be here. Justice Sharon Kennedy is also a sitting justice, and she sent us a letter, and Anita will be reading that.
Well, you're not going to get that beautiful accent that you had. So, Justice Sharon Kennedy is currently a sitting justice, and she's running for the Chief Justice position. She sent in something because she says she feels so strongly about issue 1 that she's devoting all of her time to discuss issue 1 that's going to be on the ballot this year. There's an important statewide issue on the ballot this November that will impact the safety of every single community in Ohio. If passed, issue 1 would require Ohio courts to consider public safety when setting the amount for a bail for those accused of violent crimes, along with the seriousness of the offense, a person's criminal record, and the likelihood a person will return to court. It may seem like common sense to us that judges should be allowed to consider public safety when setting bail, but in a recent case, Du Bois versus McGuffey, the 4-judge liberal majority on the Supreme Court prohibited local judges from the safety of our community, from taking the safety of our community and neighborhoods into account when making these crucial decisions. Justices Kennedy, Fisher, and DeWine all dissented from that wrong-headed decision, and the legislature followed up by putting issue 1 on the ballot. There have been countless stories in Ohio where hardened criminals, rapists, murderers, arsonists had been released on significantly reduced bail and continue to commit atrocious crimes while free. Don't just take our word for it. Take it from the Democrat Cuyahoga County prosecutor, Michael O'Malley, who said, and I quote, regretfully, the Ohio Supreme Court has issued the Du Bois versus McGuffey opinion, which states that courts cannot consider public safety when setting a bond. Hopefully, this illogical decision will be corrected on the November ballot by state issue 1, which is a constitutional amendment that will allow judges to consider public safety when setting a bond, end of quote. Although voting for issue 1 is a good start, fighting for safer streets doesn't end there. We may have the chance to reverse this horrible precedent in this time, but we won't be able to place an amendment on the ballot every time an activist Supreme Court gets something wrong. That's why we need everyone to vote for Sharon Kennedy, Pat Fisher, and Pat DeWine. A vote for a conservative court is a vote for a safer Ohio. Vote for public safety on your street and mine. Vote yes to Ohio issue 1. That's the end of Justice Kennedy's statement. And you get me one more time after that. So.
Thank you, Anita. The second position is Supreme Court Justice. The Democrat challenger is Judge Terry Jamison, and speaking on Judge Jamison's behalf is Cynthia Dunleavy.
Thank you for welcoming the Jamison campaign. I'm Cynthia Dunleavy from Clark County. And I'm here tonight as Judge Jamison is on the campaign trail and asked me to come and talk with you about the importance of the Ohio Supreme Court race, electing Justice Bruner as the Chief Justice, Judges Zayas and Jamison as Associate Justices, all respected public leaders who understand that the courts belong to we, the people. If Judge Jamison was here tonight, she would speak with you about her judicial philosophy and her background. I want to speak with you about her story, her compelling life story, which I would title it From the Coal Mines to the Courtroom. Judge Jamison was born in Welsh, West Virginia, one of the poorest areas. She had a paper route as a young girl, delivering papers to her neighbors, but that money didn't go for fun things. She was educated in the public schools, and after high school, she was employed by the Department of Welfare, working as a fraud investigator and in other positions. She is one of the very few women that, as a young woman, worked underground in the coal mines and is a proud member of the United Mine Workers of America. Shout out to our labor friends. After being laid off due to a declining economy, Judge Jameson moved to Columbus, Ohio, and trained in the CETA program so that she could re-enter the workforce in an office position. And she was lucky to be employed by the Xerox Corporation. She began her own insurance company, and as a small business owner, she owned that for 16 years. So she understands the triumphs and the tears of the small business owner. Shout out to our small business owners. She returned to school as a working adult, working her way through community college in Columbus, and transferred to Franklin University, where she earned her Bachelor of Science in Business Administration. After completing her degree, she sold her insurance agency and entered Capital Law School. After completing her law degree, she began her own law firm and was asked to run for Franklin County judge. She's a winner. Judge Jameson is a winner. In 2012, she ran for Franklin County judge and won by over 10 points. In 2018, she was asked to run again. She was reelected with a 20-point spread. In today's squeaky margins, that's phenomenal. In 2020, she was asked to run for appellate court, and she did. And she won by 6.6 points, which as you go up, you would expect the margin to be a little bit less. Judge Jameson lets Ohio voters know that the Ohio Supreme Court should be accessible to everyone, not just the wealthy and the powerful. As we know, the Ohio Supreme Court can provide checks and balances, much needed nowadays, to those who overreach or abuse power, which is extremely important in Ohio, given that the Dayton Business Journal and other respected media and organizations have either found or reported that Ohio is amongst the most corrupt states in the Union. This dishonors all Ohioans in the eyes of our nation. Judge Jameson believes that the Supreme Court should be independent and treat everyone equally with fairness, dignity, and respect, and that we should keep the politics out of the Supreme Court. Because Ohio's Constitution, the will of Ohio voters, and the rule of law matter. These are the foundations upon which our great state was built, and upon which all of us continue to build. I personally believe that every Ohioan should stand up and stand strong for those who honor us by following Ohio's Constitution, respecting the will of the people and the rule of law. Judge Jameson does and will as a Ohio Supreme Court Justice.
That's your time.
I have come to the point in my life that I don't want just any candidate. I want someone who enforces the rule of law, is ethical, and will give those who come before her a fair shake. I ask you tonight to take a stand for justice. Join me in supporting Judge Terry Jameson for the Ohio Supreme Court. Thank you.
Justice Pat Fisher is also currently on the Supreme Court, and he sent us an email this afternoon, and Anita will read the email.
All right, you guys. So these comments are from Justice Pat Fisher. I hope you all are well. Thank you for inviting me to send a few words. I ask each of you to vote for me this election. I am known as a common sense textualist, that is someone who relies upon the words found in the applicable section in the Constitution, a statute, or a contract. I then apply common sense to those words. I refuse to legislate from the bench. Under separations of powers, as a judge, I apply the law to the facts. It is not my job to create the law, just to interpret it. Please remember that it is Fisher with a C, and the C for Constitution, conservative, and common sense. God bless all of you this day and the United States of America. Sincerely, Pat Fisher with a C.
For the third Supreme Court position, we have Judge Marilyn Zayas, and she was going to attend today, but she has an injured Achilles and regrets that she is not able to attend, so Kim McCarthy is reading for her with that beautiful Australian accent.
I also just got this today as well, so. All right, thank you again. Judge Marilyn Zayas. She says that politics has no place in the Ohio Supreme Court. You want judges who are going to go past party lines, she said recently in an interview. That's the way you get the best outcome. Zayas is a judge on the 1st District Court of Appeals. She was a visiting judge to the 2nd, 6th, 8th, and 10th District Courts of Appeal, as well as the Ohio Supreme Court. Zayas was rated excellent, the highest rating from the Cleveland Metropolitan Bar Association. She is the first and only Latina elected to any Ohio Court of Appeals. Zayas has seen public trust in justices erode on the heels of the repeal of Roe v. Wade by the U.S. Supreme Court. The integrity of the whole judiciary is being questioned, she said. People are starting to lose faith in the courts and the judiciary. There cannot be fairness when there's a lack of integrity. I'm there to serve everyone. A native of New York City, Zayas and her 3 siblings were raised by their mother, who supported them with her job at a sewing factory. She raised a police officer, 2 teachers, and a judge despite having a 7th grade education. She expected me to be self-sufficient, Zayas said. Zayas has lived in Ohio for the past 34 years. She moved to Cincinnati to take a job with Procter & Gamble, where she was an IT manager. She built a law firm and worked in the trenches for 20 years, representing everyone from poor families to millionaires to refugees. So in 2016, Zayas ran for public office for the first time. I knew nothing about politics, she said. Her incumbent opponent had been appointed by the governor, so people told her she couldn't win. I came out of nowhere, had no name recognition, she said about being elected to the 1st District Court of Appeals. Not only did Zayas win the election for the unexpired term in 2016, she ran again in 2018 and won by more than 20 points in a conservative area. I am grateful that Ohio voters entrusted me to serve as their judge, Zayas said. Every day, in every case, I take my responsibility to do justice very seriously, and I'm committed to ensuring that justice is administered with integrity, independence, and impartiality. Her experience in appeals includes family law, employment issues, criminal law, and business contracts. She has trained judges, magistrates, attorneys, social workers, and the FBI. She said a majority of cases she hears for the 1st District Court of Appeals involve criminal convictions. Crime is rising in Ohio, Zayas noted. She grew up in a tough part of New York City. I lived in a neighborhood that was devastated by drugs and crime, Zayas said. I lived that. In addition to her experience on the bench, Zayas points to her unique background. I know what it's like when you're not allowed to have a voice, she said. It has nothing to do with race. It's an issue much greater than race, including last name and socioeconomic background. I know what it's like to want a fair opportunity. She said she loves campaigning and learns from her talks with voters. I'm such a strong believer in access, Zayas said. She does not agree to a change on the November ballot, which will feature party affiliation for candidates for the Ohio Supreme Court. For my race, it's inconsequential, Zayas said. The significance is not the party affiliation, it's what each of us brings to the court. I don't see myself as a Democrat, I see myself as a judge. Well, personally, I appreciate that. Party loyalty has zero place in the judicial system. And as evidenced by the recent redistricting disaster, we need an impartial Supreme Court in Ohio. If you agree with that, I urge you to vote for Judge Marilyn Zayas on November 8th. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. The Republican candidate for the third Associate Justice position is Justice Pat DeWine, and Cameron Sagaster is here to, is Cameron here? Cameron is not here. Okay, we don't have a speaker for, hold on just a minute. Okay, the next race is the U.S. Senator from Ohio. And Tim Ryan is the Democrat running for Senate Ohio. And I was unable to get through his office's email system, not email, but telephone system. I left 4 messages and nobody ever called me back to tell me who their campaign person was. The Republican candidate for U.S. Senator from Ohio is J.D. Vance, and here to speak on Mr. Vance's behalf is Jack Mahoney.
Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Jack. I'm the Regional Field Director for the J.D. Vance campaign, and J.D.'s apologetic that he cannot be here tonight, but it is absolutely my pleasure to be speaking with you all. J.D. grew up just a stone's throw away from Greene County in Middletown, Ohio, and he cares deeply about the region, and he wants to, and what drives him to run, and what drives him to want to be in Washington representing you, is he wants to protect Ohioans. One of the first ways we see how he wants to protect us is, well, in your wallet. Democratic policy in Washington has made life more expensive, with the Biden administration reckless spending driving inflation to records that have been unseen in decades, both in terms of how high inflation is and how long it has been at this rate. Our opponent, Tim Ryan, has voted with Biden 100% of the time during office on all these spending increases that he's done. And not only that, he's voted with them on increasing our taxes. Over the course of Tim Ryan's 20-year career, so he started in Washington when I was just learning how to walk, he's voted to increase your taxes 113 times. The current administration also can spit as many platitudes as it wants about how they want to support business and support industry in coming back here. But words don't mean anything in the business world. The world runs on dollars and cents. You have to have actual sensible policy besides asking nicely, which JD plans to do. One of the first things he wants to do, one of the first immediate steps he wants to take in Washington, is supporting companies who operate in the U.S. by cutting their taxes and punishing those who ship Ohioans' jobs overseas by raising their taxes. These companies have profited too long on a democratic system that has allowed them to drain jobs out of our great state and ship them overseas. The other side of defending Ohioans is from the attack on our safety. JD stands firmly by our law enforcement, who have been under attack by Washington, and condemns the statement Tim Ryan made in which he referred to law enforcement as the new Jim Crow. And protection doesn't just come with helping out our local officers, but securing our southern border. Personally, I have family in Laredo, Texas. My grandmother's family emigrated to the United States when she was just a little girl. And now my great aunt is the last to move out because she can't get an in-care home because, well, her house has been burglarized 4 times. So the part of town she lives in has deteriorated over the past couple of years due to the flow of illegal immigration. We also see the amount of drugs, especially fentanyl, coming over from our border that have allowed to freely come in and damage our community. And JD wants to put a stop to that. It's simple. A vote for JD is a vote for you and your family's safety from forces both foreign, domestic, economic, and from the reckless force that has been Tim Ryan and the Biden administration. Thank you all so much. Have a lovely night.
The last race we're going to hear about is the congressional representative, U.S. Congress from District 10, and our Democrat challenger is David Esrati.
tell you that you just heard some proxy people speak better than the politicians. I definitely believe you've seen at least 2 future politicians in here, maybe 3. I don't fit the bill of being a politician. I'm a small business owner, I'm a veteran, and I'm an activist. If you don't know what an activist is a person who's willing to go up and put everything they work for on the line and question authority. And I've been doing that for 30 years. And Mike Turner and I both ran for mayor against each other in 1993. Back then he was driving a Dodge Shadow with a Bush 1 bumper sticker. And next thing you know, he's in Congress. And you know what? He's never had to work to become a congressman because it was given to him. The first district included like 5 or 6 counties and was so Republican weighted it was unbelievable. And it doesn't help that the Democratic Party in Montgomery County is about as incompetent as they come. In fact, you see a D next to my name, just pretend that stands for David. Because they don't support me, the state party doesn't support me, nobody supports me. You know why? At least nobody, the proper supporters. Because I don't have 19 billionaires funding me. I don't have 79% of my money coming from out of state. I'm not driving a Cadillac, living in the tower at Performance Place, and never coming out to talk to taxpayers. That's Mike Turner. I got a shirt here. I'm sure some of you will agree with this, but this is our first mission right here. Defund politicians. Because, quite frankly, it costs $1 million to run for Congress for a job that pays $178,000 a year. And that's the root of the problem. We're holding auctions, not elections. So I'm really just a sacrificial lamb here because the district is still unconstitutional, still a Republican district. And it doesn't matter even once I get to Congress because these days you got to pay for your own security apparently. And they're paying for it out of their campaign funds. Is that what you donated money to? No, that's what corporations did to buy these people off. And it needs to stop. I'm sick and tired of it. You're sick and tired of it. You know, I started this campaign and I was just going to talk about small business issues because that's near and dear to my heart. One of the things that irks me as a small businessman is why do I have to pay into it to pay payroll every week? When I started in business, you had this thing, a ledger. You could fill it out and you could just pay your payroll. But now you got to pay a tax on paying your taxes. It would be very easy for the federal government to fix that. But they don't. You know why? Because we don't have businessmen. We have professional politicians, career politicians. People say, well, we should have term limits. I got something better. Why don't we just say at 70, you're done. You're done as a judge. You're done as a politician. That's enough. We got people who are petrified, basically sitting in the halls of Congress at this point, never having to worry that they're going to move. Somewhere along the line, you need somebody who's going to listen to you and talk to you. So since Mike Turner hasn't had a town hall in 20 years, what I do every day at 4, Monday through Friday, is I go on YouTube. I do a live stream. And it's interactive. You can ask questions. I can respond. And I plan on doing this once I get elected to Congress to continue to keep the constituents, the people I work for, the people I represent in the circle of what's going on in Congress every day. That's my goal. Nobody's done that before. Probably won't happen this time either because, again, the district is pretty much unconstitutionally set for Mike Turner. And I don't know 19 billionaires to give me money. In fact, I don't know a single billionaire. And I can probably say that in this room. Out of all of you, none of you do either. I know that since Mike Turner's been in office, America's gone from 300 billionaires to 600 billionaires. And that we, as the people, are getting poor. And while you hear things about blaming the Biden administration for inflation, hey, look, it happened under Republican heads. The problem is we refuse to stand up to business, enforce antitrust, and put a cap on crazy executive pay and stop the stock market from being a casino and be a real instrument of financially funding businesses. I can't compete with companies that get billions of dollars in handouts like Intel, and neither can you. Our country is taken by the rich. Let's defund them. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
David. The last race that we have to discuss, to hear from is incumbent Congressman Mike Turner, and speaking on his behalf is Ethan Reynolds.
Sorry you guys didn't get to see me twice. I have a letter here from Congressman Turner. He emailed it earlier today. Unfortunately, he regrets he's not able to join us at this event tonight, but appreciates the efforts you all are making by being informed voters and coming out tonight. During his time in Congress, Representative Turner has added over 10,000 jobs at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, voted to reduce taxes for middle-class families, supported and secured the largest expansion in Wright-Patterson Air Force Base history, voted to increase the child tax credit to $2,000 per child. Congressman Turner remains committed to this. Protecting our health care and those with pre-existing conditions, lowering prescription cross drugs, securing our border, protecting taxpayer dollars, and continuing economic development and job growth in the community. It is his tremendous honor to serve as your voice in Congress. We still have a lot of work ahead. With your support, we can expand opportunity and prosperity here in the Miami Valley and across America. So I ask for your vote so that I may continue to work for you and our community. Signed, Mike Turner. Thank you.
Okay, let's turn to the issues now. We have two statewide issues on the ballot, and the first one is to require courts to consider factors like public safety when setting the amount of bail. We have today two people to talk about this. First is our sheriff, Scott Anger, and the second is our prosecutor, David Hayes. And while you all are coming up forward to talk, that'll give you a chance to look at the issue itself on the ballot. What we have printed on, what I cut out and put in your program is what you're going to see on your ballot. And remember, I told you how to get to your actual sample ballot, and the directions are on the back of your program.
Do they have time?
Yeah, well, close, yeah. Just give them a,
They may have to go over that. I mean, they are politicians. They are politicians.
And don't forget I'm a lawyer, so.
Oh, that's true.
Hello, good evening. I'm Sheriff Anger, Greene County Sheriff. Wanted to come tonight and speak about this issue. It's a big issue. It's really a straightforward issue. There's no tricks about this issue. I think the Attorney General Dave Yost and Joe Dieters down in Cincinnati area did a good job of pushing this through after some very bad case law that came out of the DuBose case down in the area. Being in law enforcement for 38 years and wearing a lot of different hats and seeing a lot of victims, I can tell you that it's very, very important that we have sufficient bail for people that are a danger to the public. So this actual bill is simple. It allows our local judges to consider the public safety when making a bail amount for a subject. And basically, he can take into consideration the danger of the public, the likelihood the defendant will show up, and the seriousness of the offense and the previous record. And I think you're probably seeing around the country the results of, and I think Illinois is about to do it at the beginning of the year on a lot of cases where they're going to require no bail at all, very violent, serious cases. So I've talked to the judges in the area, I've talked to the Supreme Court justice candidates, and this is a huge issue for everybody in our state to make sure that we're able to have sufficient bail. The quality of life in Greene County is good because we have good law enforcement, we have a good prosecutor, and we have good judges. And all of them are very capable to work as a team to make sure that we put this together. We don't need people in Columbus or activist judges making case law that determines like legislation that doesn't allow us to do that. So it's very, very important. It's something that I endorse this to make sure that we can continue to operate the way we always have, and that's have our local judges and our local prosecutor make the recommendations for bail so we can protect victims of crime. So I'm going to let Prosecutor Hayes speak a little bit on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. To understand why this is important, I just wanted to give you a little bit of background about bail in general. So, before July of 2021, judges had the authority to consider public safety in making a bond recommendation. In July of 2021, the Supreme Court, which it has the power to do, changed what are called the rules of procedure, criminal rules of procedure. And in the case that the sheriff was talking about, the Supreme Court interpreted that new rule to mean that a local judge could no longer consider public safety when they set a cash bail. If they set a cash bail, they couldn't consider it, all right? So that's how we got up to this point. And the only thing I would tell you is that from my perspective as a practitioner, I've been doing this 18 years. I've been your elected prosecutor for 2 years. And it's really about who do you want to make the decision. That's what it's about to me. So you have the Supreme Court of Ohio who makes these changes, or do you have the trial judge who has the defendant in front of him, who has the benefit of a probation department that will do an investigation into that individual, their criminal history, will do an investigation to the nature of the crimes, and then will make a recommendation to that judge as to whether or not this person, as to what the bond should be in that particular case. And you will also hear folks tell you that the folks who are for bail reform, and I'm not telling you that I'm not for bail reform overall, but this is the wrong way to do it, that the idea that somebody is innocent until proven guilty means that everybody should get a bond. And I will tell you that that is belied by one thing, which is that in Ohio, there is a mechanism to get no bond at all, but that is for very serious violent offenses, and the burden of proof becomes higher, all right? So just as an abstract and as a sort of an intellectual issue, if we believed that all people who are charged with crime were innocent, there wouldn't be such a thing as no bail, and nobody would be in jail before they have their trial. But that's not the case, because our system has to be able to take into account that there are people who are violent, and there are people who represent a danger, and they need to be incarcerated pre-trial. And all that this does is let the trial judge that the defendant is in front of make that decision to consider public safety. And the second part of the issue is that it takes away from the Supreme Court, because I told you that the Supreme Court changed the rule, and that's what led us to where we are now. And the other part of the issue is that it will no longer give the Supreme Court the power to do that. It will fix in the law that the trial judge gets to consider public safety. And for those reasons, I support it. I know that universally law enforcement in Greene County supports it, and we respectfully ask you to support it. Thank you.
Now, wait a minute, there's two sides to every issue. So we have a person from Greene County who wants to take issue with this issue. Jill Becker, can you come forward, please?
Hello, thank you. Issue 1 proposes writing public safety into the Ohio Constitution, as we've just heard, as a consideration for setting the amount of cash bail. Who would vote against public safety? You know, it's a no-brainer. However, the Ohio Code currently states that judges should consider the protection or safety of any person of the way it's written now, it says that judges must consider the protection or safety of any person or the community. Public safety is written in. In fact, public safety is the centerpiece of our entire criminal justice system. So tying public safety to the price of bail confuses two issues, because the cost of bail is supposed to be what ensures that a person comes back for their day in court. It's not a punishment. The person has not been found guilty. So the idea of innocent until proven guilty, which we teach our children as a bedrock of democracy, that's being tipped upside down, in my opinion. To set a high cash bail for someone who cannot afford to get out, that's like really, really, really going to affect their life. They can't go to work. They can't take care of their kids. They can lose their homes. Their children can be taken into foster care. And that's because they can't afford that cash bail. But the person who can afford it and can get out is free to do damage if they're guilty, is free to defend themselves if they're not guilty, to have resources. A person who's stuck in jail while they wait for their day in court, statistically, they pretty much, their failure rate is way higher. They get locked up way higher and found guilty because they can't get out, they can't talk to the people that knew where they were when something happened. They can't defend themselves. So I think that this is, creating a problem that's not there. Issue 1 also creates barriers for some bail reform issues that are in Congress right now. In the Ohio House Bill 315 and Senate Bill 182 aim to reduce cash bail or eliminate it for low-level offenders without means. And if the purpose of a court case is to find out who's guilty, to punish people ahead of time really does not make sense. And with the bail reform that's in process, the judge, who's right there in the room, as we were just discussing, the one who's there seeing the case, seeing the evidence, they still have all the discretion. They can say, no, this person's not released because of public safety for any price. They're going to stay locked up. So I think safety is the #1 thing. It's just how do we get there, and how do we get there fairly within a democracy? Thank you.
Second statewide issue is to prohibit local government from allowing non-citizens to vote in local elections. And we're asking Kenny Hennig, representing the Secretary of State's office, to come in and discuss this issue. Sorry.
Just for full disclosure, I'm Kenny, representing just concerned citizens from the state of Ohio, not the Secretary's office at this point. Yes, this issue stems from an ordinance that happened in 2019 here in Greene County in the village of Yellow Springs, where an ordinance was passed allowing non-citizens to vote in local elections. The problem with that is it was also stated that the Board of Elections had to accept the voter registration form created on a municipal level. So the Greene County Board of Elections was told they couldn't accept those registrations, and if any registrations were taken, they had to be canceled because only citizens have the right to vote in the state of Ohio. A couple weeks ago, I was at the Dayton naturalization ceremony where 88 new citizens, 88 individuals became citizens here in the state. And afterwards, they all registered to vote. And before they registered, during the ceremony, they did the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, and they denounced their citizenship to other countries. I think that we need to vote yes on issue 2 and make it, and put it in our Constitution that only citizens have the right to vote in municipal, state, and federal elections here in the state of Ohio. So I would ask that you please vote yes on issue 2. Thank you.
And there is an opposing view on this issue as well, and Kim McCarthy is going to share a letter from one of the Greene County residents.
Last time, I promise. All right, so Brian Hausch, the council president from Yellow Springs, wanted to be here tonight to talk about this, but he has a council meeting at this exact same time. So I am here to share a few points on issue 2. I'm going to begin by reading the testimony that Brian Hausch gave to the members of the State and Local Government Committee back in May of 22, earlier this year. For some municipalities, incorporating the perspectives of non-US citizen residents by allowing them to vote for their local representatives and on local issues adds value to the municipality as a whole. These active and engaged community members pay taxes, own businesses, have children who attend our schools. They are the part of the fabric of communities. Ohio is a home rule state. As expressed just before by the sheriff and the prosecutor, local is where we want things to happen. This is a proper issue for local control because it does not affect any other jurisdictions. These residents cannot vote in state or federal elections. Notably, and I'd have to kind of refute what Kenny just said, in Brian's words here, the Greene County Board of Elections has confirmed the ability to manage differing ballots. In 2020, the citizens of the village of Yellow Springs voted to change our village charter to allow non-US citizen residents to vote. This action is similar to that of 15 municipalities in 4 other home rule states. Such participation is not new in the US. It was not until 1996 that Congress prohibited non-US citizens from voting in federal elections. However, 18 USC 611 states, aliens are authorized to vote for such other purpose under a state constitution or statute or a local ordinance. From the founding of our country until 1926, 40 states at various points allowed non-citizens to vote in local, state, and federal elections. The Village of Yellow Springs views allowing non-US citizen residents to vote as creating a more representative and responsive government. In fact, allowing these residents to vote on local issues enhances democracy by effectively providing a voice to those with a vested interest in their communities. This fosters engagement and connection, both of which are vital to the success of local government. Local jurisdictions are in the best position to represent constituents' interests. There is no negative impact from allowing contributing community members to vote on local issues, thus no need to amend Ohio's constitution. Without a problem to solve, it is incumbent upon our state legislators to preserve the principles of home rule. Understanding that the Buckeye State is a diversity of municipalities with varying values and cultures. Home rule was adopted to promote greater civic engagement at the local level, a significant outcome of allowing non-US citizen residents to vote on local issues. I believe we can agree that differing personal and political perspectives should be respected. Best regards, Brian K. Hausch. All right, so Brian does not mention some of the other kind of hidden aspects of the ballot measure. It's going to stop the normal age-old practice of 17-year-olds voting in a primary when they turn 18 before the election. So voters who come of age should be encouraged to participate in the political process, not removed from it. There was a summary in the Akron Beacon Journal from a Stephen H. Steinglass I wanted to share. The proposed amendment appears to have been motivated by 3 political purposes. First, to gin up turnout in November among voters unsympathetic to what many of us, our parents and grandparents were at one time, immigrants seeking a better life in the US. Second, to take the primary vote away from all 17-year-olds. And third, to prevent future legislative attempts to expand voter turnout by barring the General Assembly from easing voter registration requirements. This is a solution looking for a problem. Non-citizens are not voting in elections. This amendment is condoning overreach by our state government. Power should reside locally, as we've heard, not in Columbus. It doesn't mean every locality has to do that. It means that every locality should decide for themselves. These are legal residents of our country, hardworking members of our community, and they pay taxes. They have taxation without representation. And I know how that feels like because I've been one of them.
There's your time.
If you support local home rule, as the state of Ohio dictates, then I urge you to vote no on issue 2. Thank you.
When I went to pull up my sample ballot on the website, as I explained to you earlier, I found 2 Greene County issues. Issue 8 is a proposed tax levy renewal for mental health. And issue 9 is the proposed resolution on gas aggregation. And I called Commissioner Tom Kugler, who is going to now tell us about what this is. Because, first of all, I don't have gas. I'm out in the country. But I had no idea what it was. And so he explained to me what all this was, and I said, you need to come and tell our voters about this. So, Commissioner Tom Kugler.
Thank you, Carolyn. Thank the Tea Party for facilitating this event, and thank all of you for being here. The gas aggregation, if it's approved on our November ballot, it will be a countywide for all incorporated communities. Just like the electric aggregation, it saved participators a lot of money relative to the aggregation of the electric. It's going to be the same thing with gas. What happens is that we will be working with Palmer Energy, and if it's approved, then they will take all of the unincorporated areas, take all of those individuals, and let's say, for sake of conversation, it's 50,000, and they will take that and put them with other communities around the state and come up with a number that's maybe $500,000. They will then go out for an RFP and get a price from gas suppliers, and of course there will be multiple bidders on that. Then that price obviously will be available to all those participants who use gas in the unincorporated areas. If it's an incorporated area, they have to have their own gas aggregation program. But the unincorporated areas would be a county facilitated program. That will allow each one of you who are using gas in those unincorporated areas to most likely save a substantial amount of money, just like we have with the electric aggregation. So the key point here is you automatically will be put into the program, but you have the option to opt out at any time with no penalty. So let's say that you get a price of, and I'll just use a number, of 50 cents of whatever however the measurement is, and it goes down to 40% with another company. You'll have the option to opt out of that and go with the lower price at some point in time, whenever you'd like to do that. These contracts will be multi-year. So this could be a 3-year program, a 3-year contract that we would have with this supplier. With the electric aggregation, Greene County residents have saved a lot of money over the years. I had that number about a year ago that they put together for me, and I couldn't find it in my file to provide you with that. But the electric number has been substantially cheaper than what you can get on the open market. And again, the gas should be the same thing. Now, it should have the same results. Problem right now is gas has been on its way up. So that's why it's so important that we understand that if you are part of the program, if it's voted in, and you're part of the program, and all of a sudden the price, goes out of sight, but there's other people that can provide you with a cheaper price, then you have that option to opt out of that program. And I think that's very important. So there's no lose. I mean, there's no downside for those participants. And we also encourage people who have propane to also help. Hopefully, we'll vote for this too, because you never know when a gas line is going to be put in front of your house, or you're going to relocate, and you're going to want that opportunity for that lower price. So, to me, it's a no lose. I think it's a smart thing. It's going to save us a lot of money if it's voted in, just like the electric aggregation has done. And certainly be happy to answer any questions that anybody may have. I don't know if I'm the last speaker or not. Is there any questions that someone may have on this? I have one. Anita, which office are you running for? That's what I want to know. And where you decided you're going to live? That's the two things I want to know.
I'm living in Fairmont.
Okay, all right.
And I'm running for precinct 2.
All right. Yes, ma'am.
If this does pass, when would you expect because we have saved a ton of money on our electric bill.
Probably next cold season, probably the bid will go out during the spring and probably ready to be implemented just about this time next year. Just before it starts getting cold, you really start using the gas. We're excited about it. We think that, a number comes to my mind, that I think the first 2 years we were really able to put $1 million back into the so-called the economy, so that there was $1 million that people didn't have to spend on electric, that they could spend on other things within the county to help promote our economy. Anything else? Well, I'll be back here in 2 years giving you my speech and asking your vote. So thank you very much.
You can just have Anita do it for you.
Okay, like I said, when I pulled down my ballot this afternoon, I realized that there were 2 Greene County issues that I didn't know about. And we don't have any township issues, but you may. You may have a city issue or a township issue that you don't know about until you get to the ballot itself. So I strongly encourage you to go to that Board of Elections website and download your sample ballot so that you can figure out what it is that you're going to have to be voting on, and maybe do some research before you get it, so that your vote, really will be
Carol,
meaningful.
let me add one thing to that too, is that I get a lot of calls, well, why can't I get this? And they may be in a municipality. They'll be a part of they'll be in Fairborn, for instance, and I don't know if Fairborn has it. I know they're talking about it. There's a couple other communities. They're talking about putting on the gas and the electric aggregation. I scratch my head and wonder why those elected officials have not done that in those communities. So if you live in a community, in a municipality that does not have this available, you need to be knocking on some people's doors and say, why not? Because it's so simple to be done, and you get put into a group that is so that you get the buying power of all the other communities around the state, and it makes a big difference.
Thank you. Sheriff Anger.
May I speak on behalf of the Mental Health Board?
Oh, certainly.
I didn't know that there wasn't a speaker here, but I am on the Mental Health Board of Madison, Greene, and Clark Counties. Been on there for over 11 years, so I would like to offer up my support for the renewal levy, for the mental health levy. That all ties back into a lot of the problems we have with our office, with people in recovery, with people with mental health problems. It's very, very important to support our mental health renewal. Again, as we get ready to build our new jail and build it for the contemporary style that we need to build it for, we're hoping to bring more services for mental health and recovery into the jails. So again, I ask you on behalf of as being a board member on that 18-member board, please support the levy for mental health.
Is it a tax increase?
No, ma'am.
Thank
It's
you.
not.
And there was a question in the
Yes,
back.
I'm sorry.
That's what I was going to ask.
All right. Thank you.
It's a renewal.
It's a new renewal. Before I turn it over to Jeremy, I just wanted to say thank you all for participating.
I'll second that motion. Thank you everyone for coming out tonight. At the close of the 1787 convention, Dr. Benjamin Franklin was asked the question, Dr. Franklin, what kind of government have you given us? To which he responded, a republic if you can keep it. Events like this, your participation, your being informed on the issues that matter, that will determine whether or not we keep the republic. Thank you everyone for attending. I also want to thank the Executive Board of Greene County Tea Party. I just got back from Israel recently. I want to thank them for the awesome job advertising and putting this event together. Please give them a round of applause. All right, everyone, thank you very much for coming.